How much to success and money is around luck?
I think the more success and the more money, the more that luck played a role, with no exceptions. And it's not to say that people who have extreme wealth or success were not smart, hardworking, industrious. Like, of course, they were all those things. But the higher you get, you can say, it approaches 90% luck, 10% skill. For everybody, there's no exceptions. And even if you say something like so simple about Steve Jobs was born in the United States in the middle of the 20th century. Are we going to pretend that if Steve Jobs was born in Cameroon in 1650, he would have been as successful as it was? Of course not.
No.
So even just the very broad macro luck of what's involved, it's huge. Now, it's always when luck and an incredible amount of skill meets at the same time. But I think there are a lot of people in the world who are just as creative as Steve Jobs, just as driven as Bill Gates, just as motivated as Mark Zuckerberg. But if they don't meet some incredible stroke of luck in their life, they're going to have a middling level of success.
Right.
I think that's always the case.
Wow.
So I don't think it's black and white. All of those people who are very successful are ridiculously talented at their things, but it's easy to overlook the role that luck played.
Timing, the people around them, the opportunities, season of life, all those things. Did you predict the success of your book?
No.
Did you think
No.
This is going to do millions of copies, or what if it does this?
Not in 1,000 years. And
Really?
to show that there's no false humility, the first print run was 5,000 copies.
Wow.
Because that's all we thought it would sell. So
Really?
we're obviously not going to print 5,000 copies if we knew it was going to sell 4 million. It's the first year was a disaster of trying to print copies to keep up with it, which is a big problem to have. It's a good problem to have, but it's a real problem. So never in a million years did I think it would do this, or did the publisher, or did anyone else. And I think even looking back in hindsight, it could not have been predicted. I don't think anyone could have seen it coming. Even the people who read it before it was published, even if they said, "Oh, great book," was not, "This is going to become one of the best-selling investment books of all time."
Wow.
Nobody saw that, including me.
That's amazing. What was your investment strategy like before having that much money versus now, passive income coming every single week now in abundance?
Hasn't changed one iota, not in the slightest. There's more zeros, but it's the same exact allocation.
What is that strategy for you?
To me, I keep it as painfully simple as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So my entire net worth is a house, cash, Vanguard index funds, and shares of Markel, where I'm on the board of directors, and that's it.
That's it.
There's nothing else.
You keep most of it's in index funds.
Yeah, almost all the stocks that I own are in index funds.
The rest is cash.
Cash, or I have some treasury bonds. I consider
Sure.
I consider that trash.
But that's
cash.
trash. Yeah, cash is trash right now, right?
Freudian slip.
But when you start seeing those zeros add up when you have cash, do you think about, well, why don't I just buy a nice new car for myself? What's the harm? Or why don't I go take more luxurious trips? Or why don't I buy something for my family? Or, do you think about that, or investing in other riskier things? Or
so I would say we have, to be blunt, if you looked at our annual spending pre and post book, it's increased threefold, something like that.
Yeah,
so it's not that we haven't spent any of it, but we still have a very, very, very high savings rate. To the extent that we have spent more money, it's all on things that are going to actually improve our life, that have no show-off potential.
health.
So
Save time.
family vacations.
Yeah.
We're not doing it to show off for other people. Saving time, that kind of things. We've done a lot on the interior of our house because that's what we benefit from, not the exterior of our house that people see. Drive the same car and whatnot. So, things have gotten better, materially better for us. Even if I think it's almost entirely things that are just making us happy rather than showing off to others.
What has gotten worse for you since making more money?
That's a good question. I think some idea of, can I keep this going? And look, I think if all of this ended tomorrow, I think I'd actually be okay. Psychologically. It might hurt for a while, but I actually think I would be okay. I don't expect this to last forever. And I think being an author is very much like an athlete, where you might have a couple good years, but you're not going to have 30 good years. That's just usually not how it works, unless you're John Grisham or something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare. So I think I need to keep myself psychologically prepared for this to end. But there is that thing of of course I want it to keep going. So when you want it to keep going, but you need to be realistic about the odds of that continuing, I think that's something where it's look, if you have some level of success, great, amazing. But there is a first world problem of look, someday this is going to decline. And that might sting a little bit.
Right.
There's this great quote from Will Smith I use in the book. He says, gaining fame is the best feeling in the world. Being famous is okay, and losing fame is pain like you've never experienced.
Really?
Because what people like is the elevator ride up. It's the change in circumstances. It's not being famous, it's gaining fame. And I think money is the same. Like, being rich is okay. Gaining money is incredible. So let's look at someone who has $10 million. Does having $10 million make them happy? Like, maybe a little bit. But what really was a thrill that they loved was going from 1 million to 10 million.
Right.
That elevator ride up was incredible. Now, when you go from 10 million back to 1 million, you need a therapist as soon as possible.
Why is it so painful to lose, even if you still have a lot of money? From 10 million to 1 million, that's still a lot of money in the bank, but why is it so hard for people to lose even 10% and start changing their behaviors and habits around how they even got there?
I think it becomes part of your identity. Fame and money is like this. In any time in your life where you can say, I am a blank, no matter what comes after that, it's your identity. So even if you're not saying this to other people, but in your head, you say, I am a rich person. Even if you're not saying that, but in your head, that's what you are. And now because your net worth goes down, you start wondering, like, am I anymore? Like, am I the person who I thought I was? Or if you said, I am a successful entrepreneur, if that's what the bug you have in your head, and then you have a really bad year, you start questioning that. And anytime in life where you have to question your identity, it sucks. It's really painful.
What can someone do in that time when things are fluctuating up and down to hold on to an identity and values that they are a good and enough as a person of who they are versus their net worth?
I think it's really important if you have any kind of success in life that your identity was formed before that success. And to the extent that it changed with wealth or fame, like, that's what's dangerous. So I hope my wife would say, I'm confident she would say this, that I'm the exact same person that I was 5 years ago. Maybe hopefully I'm a little bit more mature, but it hasn't changed anything material about my personality and how I treat her and how I treat my kids. If it did, that's what's going to get stung on the way down. There's a saying, I heard the story once that ancient, like, Roman soldiers, when they came home from battle and they're like full of hubris and they're just like, we're the champion warriors, and they would like march through the city as like a welcome home parade. They would hire somebody to walk behind them and whisper in their ears, you are just a man. You're not a hero. You're just a man. And I think that, like, forced humility, or like going out of your way to shove humility in your face, is absolutely critical for everybody. Like, forget the rich and famous. Everybody needs to remind themselves that they're just a person. And this is where I think having kids, young kids, is so helpful, because it doesn't matter how many books I've sold, my daughter will be like, I'm out of juice. Get me more juice. Like,
throwing up on you or whatever.
Yeah. Throwing up on you. Nothing that matters to them. And that's so healthy to see.
Wow. How many kids do you have?
2, 4, and 8.
What have you learned as a father around making money and ensuring that you can still raise good kids?
My thoughts on this are not fully formed, because it's something I'm still grappling with. Since my kids are only 4 and 8, like, we're not talking about, like, buying them cars or whatever. So I'm still trying to form my thoughts on this. So I talked to someone the other day who was, he's the child of a billionaire and grew up when his dad was a billionaire. And he had the most balanced, thoughtful, wise view on money that I've ever heard, which was, he lived the high life, private jets, mansions, go on down the list. And it did not ruin him.
Really?
Or his siblings. And
Why?
He said it was because his parents never made that big of a deal about money. And they went out of their way to make sure that their kids knew that just because they have more money than other people, they are not better than them. To value people based off of their intelligence, their kindness, their empathy, not on the square footage of their house. And I think that's very hard to do. Their parents did a ridiculously good job, but your kids are going to learn your values, not your spending habits. They may get accustomed to some level of spending, and that can be dangerous. This is not black and white, but I think mostly they're going to learn your values. And the point that he made was, whenever you see a rich, spoiled kid, a kid who is not only has a lot of money, but he's just a brat, just a jerk, that's not because the parents were giving him money. It's because the parents did a really good job teaching him values. And so I think I go back and forth between this idea of, if you want to raise well-balanced kids, don't give them money. Don't spoil them. versus actually we can give them a great material life if we are going out of our way to make sure that values are first. I go back and forth on this because I think it's just easier said than done.
Right.
When you say that, you're like, oh, great, that sounds. How do you actually do it?
You have
How
to
do you
test
actually
this
do
theory.
this?
Yeah.
I also think there's a thing that's really important that it's very kid specific. So I make this point that if Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, if they inherited $1 billion at age 18, it would have not slowed them down at all. They were so ambitious, irrespective of money. But if I inherited $1 billion at 18, I'd be a disaster. Like most people need to be motivated by the fear of not making it. And if you tell your kids from a young age, you're always going to make it. I'm always going to shovel money at you.
Yeah.
And they don't have that fear. That's a dangerous thing.
Interesting. So there's a balance there. Yeah, I think I've heard you talk about how, most athletes go bankrupt, within a few years after their retirement, even though they have a ton of money. And then there's also lottery winners that commit suicide or go through depression or lose all their money within a few years after, gaining the lottery. What is it about people that lose their money versus people that get a lot of money and learn how to grow it and maintain it?
I think getting rich and staying rich are two completely different skills. And that is what is like so often overlooked, because we want to think of just money as one skill, like getting rich is one skill, but the skill to make a lot of money versus holding on to it for a generation or more is totally different. And I think the best way to explain it is like getting rich requires being an optimist and taking a chance and being optimistic in yourself, swinging for the fences. Staying rich is the opposite. It's a completely contradictory skill where you need to be like pessimistic and paranoid.
Really?
So being optimistic and pessimistic at the same time and getting those to coexist is so difficult, and not a lot of people can do it. And you see these in statistics like the Forbes list of billionaires. There's like 70% turnover every decade.
Really?
Not from people dying, but from people being at the top and then falling out.
Are they taking too much risk at that point?
I think that's the biggest. That's not the only point, but that's the biggest. Is the kind of personality that you need
to get there
to become a decabillionaire is not the kind of personality that's going to say, "Okay, that's enough. Let's cash out and put everything in municipal bonds."
Right.
Like, they're not going to do that. It's more like I've said this for years.
It's the rush of growth,
yes.
Right? It's like the rush, the high that you see growing.
I've said this for years that I think Elon Musk, it's one of two outcomes. He's either going to become a trillionaire or go bankrupt. And honestly, I'm spitballing here, but I think it's 50-50.
Did you see this interview he recently did?
Yes.
I think it was yesterday.
It's ridiculous.
Where he was like, let's see where the chips fall.
Yeah.
Where it's like $44 billion I invested. Maybe it all goes bankrupt.
Right.
He said, let's see where the chips fall.
It's pretty astounding.
That's ballsy, right?
But here's the thing. Of course it's ballsy. He's trying to go to Mars. Of course he's ballsy.
But he's willing to risk $44 billion in order to get, it's just crazy,
I mean, I might be getting these numbers slightly off, but when he sold his first company in the 1990s, when he cashed out of PayPal, I think he had like $300 million. And he took like $295 million of it and invested in Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah. Like almost all of it.
Which and the odds that both of those companies would go out of business were probably 99%. He would probably agree with those odds.
Yeah.
The kind of person who has that mentality. Like if I at age 30 cashed out $300 million, I probably would have put it in muni bonds and gone to the beach.
290 is in the bonds, and
Yes.
then 10 million maybe I'll like play a little.
Right. So that's my personality. His is not like that. Same with Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all of these people. Whenever they make money, they cannot stop. And I so admire that type A personality, even if it's not me.
It's more of like a game for them.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's okay with being broke because he knows he can make money again.
I think all those people, Jeff Bezos talks about the regret minimization framework.
What is that?
Where with every big decision that he makes, he imagines himself at age 100 on his deathbed, and he wants to have as few regrets as possible. So he talks about when he started Amazon in 1993 or 4 or whatever it was, that he knew it was a very low chance it was going to work. But he also knew that if he didn't try, he was going to regret it for life. Wow. So if he tried it and it failed, he would not regret that. If he didn't try it, he would regret it forever. Now, I would say back to myself, I don't have that personality. I think I have the personality that if I quit my job, raised $10 million from friends and family, start a business and it failed, I'd be crushed.
Really?
I'd be crushed. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think if you just embrace the personality that you have, like I'm not a type A entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I really admire and I'm glad the people who exist. Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure to that too.
Yeah, but back to our original point, that's the kind of personality that almost never knows when to stop. Now, there are a couple of examples. Bill Gates is the best example, I think, of someone who was able to take absolutely stratospheric risks, and at the same time, on the other hand, be very conservative in what he was doing financially.